You know, someone you might also want to look into, if you don't haven't already, is Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. They're all about flow and high performance, so along the lines of these journeymen. But Peter Diamandis speaks openly about his use of DMT and
what was the name again?
Peter Diamandis.
So you guys know we're live, but everybody knows the first 10 minutes of anything I do is me fumbling around with the idea that we're live. We're live. And I can't just, I can't, it's so.
You're only fumbling because you say you're fumbling.
Well, I mean, that's how I overcompensate for my fumbling in the realm of tech is I talk shit about it.
That's how he mentally collects himself.
Yeah. So, all right. So anyway, this is the human condition. We've been on hiatus for, I don't know, a couple months probably. Last person we had on was Dr. Terry Gordon. Been waiting to be inspired. We got Rude Jude on next week. Obviously, we had the guys from Soul Tribe, Aaron and Aaron. And the reason that I was really inspired to, I wanted you guys first, is the other day, I was taking my son to a movie theater to hang out with his friends and watch the Batman. He called me at 11:30. I was at a meeting at work, and you know, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So he's disorganized. His emotions don't fire up the way a quote unquote normal person's would. Real bad with time, but he called me at 11:30 and I was still in the meeting. I dropped the meeting and I went to pick him up, took him to the movie theater to hang out with his friends by himself. And that's may not be a big deal. He's 13, may not be a big deal to some people. I bawled the whole way home because this time last year, Vinnie had tried to commit suicide twice, back to back. He was in the psych ward. So I'm crying the whole way home because we couldn't let him be unsupervised a year ago. The one time we did, he walked like 5 miles to the train tracks, and the cops found him standing on the train tracks, trying to saying he wanted to kill himself. Cry for help, regardless. A dark place for a 12-year-old. He was 12 at the time, and the pandemic really got to him. But so he went to the psych ward, and the first thing they did was diagnose him with autism spectrum disorder, which we kind of knew anyway. We knew he was probably on the spectrum, but then they also diagnosed him with generalized anxiety disorder, and what was the other one? It was depression with psychosis. This one day, they had him in there one day. On the second day, they called. They said, we need to prescribe him trazodone so he can sleep. I said, I'm anti-trazodone, but he's in your facility. Go ahead and prescribe him that. He's done when he leaves. They put him on Zoloft, or they asked. And then I did some research on it, and I knew what they were going to do. They were going to kick him out if he didn't take the drugs. If you don't take the drugs, there's liability for them. So anyway, I said, okay, on the Zoloft. It was Paxil at first, and then I talked to my neurologist. She said, hell no. And I talked to Bessel, Lisha Sky over at the Trauma Research Foundation. They said, no, you don't give a kid Paxil. So I agreed to Zoloft. The next day, they said, we want to give him Abilify. I said, what the, I said, in place of the Zoloft and the trazodone, or in place of one? She said, no, we usually give 3. That was their formula. So they want something for serotonin, they want something for dopamine, they want something to knock you out. So that was Vinnie last year. We decided to go a different route. I have the luxury of researching a little bit more than the next. I'm kind of in this space with what you would call alternative medicines, right? When really they're the originals. So I'm in this space. I have contacts with the leading voices in trauma, neurologists, and so I could call around and I could do some research, some genuine research, and really dig into what these things do to a person's brain. And it's not a recoverable place that they put children in when they die, when they put them on these drugs, and then they tell them wait 30 days so you can get addicted to it. Once you get addicted to it, you won't feel so bad anymore. It's insane. So we opted to go the other route. there's a gentleman that we all know who does Bufo ceremonies. Me and Amber went based on your recommendation. We went, amazing, life-changing. And then we asked him, and just happened to be there. We couldn't figure out how to get Vinnie out of his darkness. And we asked him, we said, hey, you said the Sonoran kids, it's a rite of passage, right? When they turn 13, would you see our son? He's suicidal. And he said, yeah, but don't sell him on it. Just tell him what it does. And if he wants to come, yes, I will take him through ceremony. Vinnie's scared of everything on the face of the planet. That just developed recently, but toad. Anyway, a poisonous toad. Go take some poisonous toad. You'll be better, right? Is what we're telling this 13 or not even 13-year-old yet. He said yes, which was mind blowing. So I paid for him and his mom to go, and he's been a different kid ever since. We did the cacao ceremony with you guys. I found a place called Brain Balance. It's not holistic. It's really, so most mental disorders stem from the fact that one side of the brain gets hyperstimulated, the other side stops growing. So there's no communication between the hemispheres, and that leads to a disconnection from the body, right? So that autism, they're disconnected from their emotions, their body. Vinnie was cutting himself because he didn't know he was there. So he would cut himself to feel like he was there. So we did these things, and without any drugs, without any prescriptions, with basic therapy, mindful practices being a top priority here, cacao, he got exposed to through you guys, Bufo. The next day, it was the next week, right? The next week, I go in. First, Vinnie takes his sister's piano. It's our keyboard. It's a nice one. And she noticed it. And she went down there screaming, Vinnie, she doesn't even play it anymore. So I said, just let him keep it for now. And we let him, because I didn't know what he wanted it for, but I was curious. He was so depressed that he couldn't really say his name. You know what I mean? It was bad. So I go into his room 2 hours later. He's got blue tape on each one of the keys, and he's got YouTube tutorials on his computer screen and on his flat screen on the wall. I said, Vinnie, what are you doing? He said, I'm learning piano. I said, what? He said, I'm learning piano. And I was speechless. I said, oh, okay, I'm out. I walked out of the bedroom, and I brought down his sister's bench, and I said, you just keep this in here for now. Came back in at the end of the night. I said, Vinnie, I'm curious, what were you learning? He starts belting out horror scores on the piano. This is one night that he was back here on the piano. He had no interest in life. Like, he was really dark. He wanted to die. And then that week he made dinner for us. So anyway, that's to preface what we're about to go into, and the beautiful work that you guys do. It was a life changer for me the first time I met you guys, and we'll just leave it at that. In terms of, so anyway, I really want to, I don't want to say anybody can bash big pharma. It's easy. It's an easy thing to do. You can list the consequences, so you're blue in the face. The drug companies list the side effects on the commercial, where they tell you what the possibilities are of these things.
They don't even tell you what the medication's for anymore. They're just, here's the side effects. Come and sign up.
Are you willing to accept this as a possibility? Come on, we got it. So it's not to bash, even though, because it's easy. It's easy to do it. It's to say there's another way. And experiential. Were you talking, Aaron?
No.
I thought we got a delay on here, don't we?
I would say that some people do benefit highly from those medications too. I wouldn't just throw out everything.
Right. And that's,
absolutely.
And it was just, this whole thing is to say there's another way. In fact, I know two guys who live the other way. And look, I wanted to unleash on the psychotropic industry immediately with Vinnie. You know what I mean? That was my gut, my visceral response to that was, I just want to go out and bash him, and I want to launch this campaign.
Well, because you saw the effects of on him immediately.
And I knew there was, I knew it would be, I didn't know you guys were going to introduce us to the Bufo guy. I didn't know that he was going to take Vinnie in. I didn't know there was going to be the cacao serum. I didn't know any of these things. I just knew that it would behoove me to keep my mouth shut for the time being. And now that we've lived this with Vinnie, I tried to get him on today. He still doesn't want to be on camera. I can say from experience, there's another way that it works better. And again, I don't know what people's elements are, you know what I mean? And thank you for the disclaimer.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, Vinnie's brain is permanently compromised now. If he wants to go do drugs when he's older and rob liquor stores, he can still do that. Like, that's an easy get back. You know what I mean? So his brain transitioned in the right direction. He wants to live again, right? So if he ever wants to go bad, that's a real easy redo. The psychotropics, you don't come back from that. When you're a kid, you don't, your brain chemistry stays in that state. You're altered permanently. And basically what you are is you're sedated. So you can acclimate to society, and society can tolerate you, right? There's no psychoanalyzation, there's no any of that. And there's definitely no sitting for 8 hours with damaged kids or people and watching them go through these traumatic experiences and then knowing it's the right way. It's standing there in truth. And so they don't do that. They don't do what you guys do. So do you guys want to chime in with what it is you do? I put your website up on our page, and we're going to push the hell out of it because I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure to know you and Amber, and a pleasure to cross paths and to celebrate life. And I think that's what we do. And simple. We like to celebrate life, and that comes in many different forms. No, my phone. Thanks, computer.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, all right.
We're on Zoom. We're already on Facebook.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. Coming back to like roots, it's a simple aspects of life. Getting around a fire, singing, dancing, playing some drums and rattles, drinking cacao, finding out about natural herbal remedies. What were our ancestors doing hundreds and thousands of years ago? And these similar practices that we can do now, or same practices that we can do now, have very, very powerful psychological, emotional benefits to our brain and body, and drive community, which is something we certainly need right now. And, we're in this new age of Aquarius, new technological age, where we have a lot of benefits that we can appreciate. Like right now, we're able to be in the same time and space having this conversation. Although we're in, each in our different, homes and using this technology to be able to do so. So it's really lovely, but then we can really escape the connection of humanity, which is so needed. And, there's only certain ways that we can find that in different communities, going to religious organizations, churches, spiritual groups, things like that. But even in the spiritual community, oftentimes I find, there's an event or a workshop or something, and it's an hour long or whatever in the yoga studio, and then it's get out, so it's just like you get in, you pay your whatever the workshop fee is, and then you leave. And then even so, it's just like it seems like you're building relationships in the community, and then now it's having to pay to hang out with your friends and to go into those spaces, and only for a small amount of time. We're trying to just open things up a little bit more, breathable, and allow people to express and to be, and give them a voice in the community and come together. And not so much time limits, but share food and all these different things to bring people together and to talk and realize we're not alone. And sometimes it's all the medicine that we need. I'm sure Aaron can chat more on that as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things in the forefront of both of our minds is that the community itself is the best medicine. When you are in the company of nothing but love and non-judgment and support And that can just come in the form of a friend with a cup of coffee on the couch. But knowing that, the community is always there, and being able to have that support system is literally at the forefront of everything that we do. And I can't tell you how many people have heard come up to us and go, I have been waiting for a group like this my entire life.
We've been waiting for you too.
It's the most incredible thing that I could ever hear, because I feel the same way. So and we've been growing. We probably are about right around over 300 strong in the last 2.5 years, and that we've been growing these communities and these events, and the events are growing, the ideas are growing, the community is growing. And it's been absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm actually going to be working on the calendar tonight, probably for the next 2 or 3 months, to push out a whole load of events that are going to be on our website in the next couple of days. So I'm really looking forward to, our summer solstice event, which is going to be a hoot. And we're gonna have some really, really fun times coming up here as the weather warms up, and I'm really looking forward to getting outside and getting connected to Mother Earth, and just
grounding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know when I get the email and I call, or I send an email and say, we want to get in, and you guys say, it's booked, man. At first it's like, and then it's like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean? Because that means you're growing. That means there's a demand for it. I mean, that makes, as soon as I get over the I really wanted to do that night and that sounded great, and then it's like, that's fucking awesome. That's such a beautiful thing that that you have that kind of demand. And it
really is.
The funny thing is, some of the things that are the best for people are illegal. Psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT. Meanwhile, alcohol is plenty legal.
And in addition to legalities, stigmas, or what is associated to a specific thing, what kind of person does this or what kind of person doesn't do that, I think is even more prevalent.
Yet, and they'll try to prescribe my son Abilify. You know how many like that's commercially, I know what that is. I've heard about those class action lawsuits, and that's what you want to give them. You know what I mean? But I mentioned ketamine because ketamine was a game changer for me. It was the thing that I had no choice but to have a near-death experience, right? So I'm in this space now, and I could speak to anybody about the benefits of meditation. I could talk your ears off about all the things I knew, right? And I would give people that information, and I would watch them blow by me because I wasn't practicing. I thought it was good enough to know this shit, and it wasn't. I teetered on the fence for so long, and I got to the point with these PTSD flashbacks. Vinnie came, and I said, you know what? I would rather die than be this kind of father. Like, I'm not going to check out every 4 months because I wasn't even diagnosed, and I didn't even know it was PTSD flashbacks. I'm thinking maybe I'm an addict, maybe I'm any compulsion that I would fall into, maybe I'm that, you know what I mean? And it all fell flat, and I just got helpless. And I read this book on ketamine, and then I started reading medical journals. They were using it pretty heavy in England to take people out of chronic pain disorders. They would put them in 5-day ketamine comas, addiction, and obviously PTSD was a big one. So I read the book. I didn't want to inject myself. There's a stigma that goes along with it. I was scared to do it. But I said I'd rather die. So I'm going in, and I had no idea what I was going into, but it changed my life. So what I realized is I wanted to run for my son, but I didn't. Like, I wanted to run. I didn't feel adequate. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be a father, right? Like I had this weird resistance to it. and he was delivering something to me. I didn't know what it was. And I'm pretty sure that's what my dad ran from when I was younger, because he didn't have the information. He didn't have after this, and this is hindsight, the neural pathway that opened up was to unconditional love. I looked at myself. I was on the couch. I was standing outside of my body, and I looked at myself real lovingly. And I speak the way I speak. I said, "You're an asshole. You know, you're an asshole, and most of what you've done is wrong. You need to reinvent yourself." And that was it. That was it. That was the only conversation I had. And when I came out, I remember I was reading 2-3 books. The first night, it was 3 books that night. I couldn't stop taking in information. I've never had anything in my system that had me want to go figure things out in life. So quantum physics, I was sleeping with Through the Wormhole or The Secret or some kind of loop. I couldn't get enough of it. And I didn't want to leave that space. And then I figured out I had my first transcendental meditation experience, and I realized, oh, I can go there. You know, prior to though, I had so many psychological blocks to being still and being okay with myself and being compassionate with myself. I would cuss myself out in my own meditation room that I built. I'd be like, fuck this shit. You're a fucking asshole. You can't even do this for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm talking to myself. There's nobody looking at me, but I'm thinking, you know, maybe God, there's somebody's looking at me right now, and they know I just failed. That's how bad it was. Like my drive towards perfectionism, and it was all control mechanisms, right? From abandonment as a kid and abuse. And
Hey, babe.
yeah.
I just thought of something that has never come up in our conversation before. And we've talked about this and heard about it. You went through all that alone.
Yeah.
There was no community that was supporting you through that. There were no.
That's why I love these guys.
Comrades in the search, you know, the seekers for alternative things. You were all on your own.
I was on my own, faced with the possibility of death, like real death, and said, I'm jumping off the cliff, and hopefully I can fly. You know, so it was a scary thing. But yeah, sorry to cut you. It was true statement.
And then how old what was Sophie when you found when the mother-daughter dance happened?
Oh, she was, I believe, daddy-daughter.
Daddy-daughter, sorry.
Which one?
The one you took to the church. To the
church. That was 2014. I think Deepak Chopra. Yeah, so 2014.
So how long between the two until you started finding community that would support?
So from 2008 to 2014, 6 years. Yeah. 6 years of me just reading, you know, Greg Braden, what else was there? Bruce Lipton. Like I was really heavy on the scientists that had turned spiritualists. Yeah. Like that was my wheelhouse, because I'm very right and left brain. I need to make sense of things. I don't need to. I do. That's the funny part, is that I'm completely unattached to the answers, but I will ask them. You know what I mean? And if I can find them, then it helps me to move quicker into. But yeah, I was by myself. There was community. I just didn't have access to it at the time. Mm-hmm. That's another beautiful thing about the internet, is people that want to search what you guys do. Mm-hmm. You just got to put it in now. They'll find somebody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you'll find, if you want to believe the earth is flat, you'll find somebody. You know what I mean? Like whatever you want to believe, there's somebody out there that believes it too. And they probably have a paper that has some decent information, some half truths that'll get you there. And then you have people that have the whole truth, and they'll get you there. So it's a beautiful thing. But ketamine was the thing for me. And then I started delving into other things like ayahuasca, DMT. But after I had that ketamine experience, I really didn't need to spend too much time with any of the other medicines, because I had already died. You know, so when I did Changa, I was telling you, Changa for the first time, I pierced the veil, and I was like, oh, all right, it's true. What I believe is true, and that was it. You know what I mean? I came out. I was with my cousin. He's this 6'4" ex-gangbanger, tattoos all over. He's laughing like a fucking child. It was so filled with joy, and so am I. And I was like, let's go upstairs and talk about this. And that was it. We didn't feel a drive to go back into the space. No, we went back one more time because we put on Joe Rogan. And I can't remember who the wrestler was that was talking about DMT, but he said, it might have been Diamond Dallas Page.
Mike Tyson talked about it. There's a
Well,
reference.
he was talking about Toad.
Oh, yeah.
But this guy, he said, so when you feel your senses start to come back in Changa, he said, you can breathe meditatively, and it will teleport you to, and it did. So I'm just this particle, right? What I believe from my quantum physics brain is I'm just this wave function now amongst the other wave functions, these geometric patterns, and this time it was all white light. So when I breathed, I moved to, I think it was a cliff I was sitting on, maybe not, but I got to go to these different places of my psyche, really, and it was pretty badass. But yeah, I didn't have anybody. And then I stumbled onto Renaissance Unity. My therapist told me, she said, the way you speak about energy, and she said, I think you would like this place. It said church on the flyer. I said, nah, miss me with that shit. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing church. But they had a daddy-daughter dance there. And I wanted to take my daughter. So we went. And then I talked to Brett Talander, and he's the CEO, and everybody else. And they were talking metaphors of heaven and hell, and just all metaphysics. I'm on the board now. I haven't left since.
Wow.
But I needed that, and I didn't know how to access it. And there's a lot of people out there right now who need what you guys do. They don't know how to access it, and they have doctors tell them. What Vinnie's doctor told me was, well, that's an experimental drug. The FDA hasn't approved that. Talking about ketamine, and I mentioned the Bufo, and I'm like, look, I don't care if it's illegal. I don't care. My son's different now. He's not trying to kill himself. So I told his therapist, I said, you tell anybody you call CPS, you let them know that I did that, and I would do it again in a fucking heartbeat. And they did call CPS. And when they came into the house, they said, we have no case here. And I said, you don't, you don't, but I appreciate you coming out. But yes,
Beautiful.
the way they bashed the alternative medicines was insane. The same doctor that just tried to give him Abilify, the one, he's suicidal. It got a class action lawsuit for people committing suicide. What the fuck are you prescribing that to my kid for? You know what I mean? And then you want to bash ketamine and Bufo and kiss my ass. So
Well, it's to cover your ass. Is what it is, right? In a lot of cases.
Well, yeah, liability.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They're told this is what you can do. So
that's a big thing here. I think that, and it's small, but it's going to be growing, and it's not just us. There's these a lot of branches and people all over kind of creating these similar environments, where it's more than just making a buck off of a workshop or a class, but it's truly creating a community. And like you said, I used to go to Renaissance as well, when it was over on 696 in Hoover area, and it was really beautiful, and it was open-minded, and what was taught was really, really, really beautiful. And it's like I'm taking Tai Chi classes and different stuff like that there, and it had changed this location, and I didn't even know until I had reacquainted with you that it was this new thing was happening. But the idea of church, and a religious set of beliefs or ideas or something like that does scare a lot of people. And that's something that we open the door to is like, it does not matter what belief system that one has or how one identifies. And like, it's disheartening to see around the globe, the splits in like views, that truly separate and isolate people right now. And where it's like, it's hard to have an opinion or a thought of your own, because if for any reason you go against, popular belief, then it's like you're shunned or something, or canceled, disconnected from the community, disconnected from the family, even, or close friends, from differences of whatever it may be, and there's a lot of things right now, a lot of topics to have differences of opinion on, that are creating these. And it's just like, here, doesn't matter. You can believe whatever, but it's like, we're coming here to, in a sense, celebrate and do the work. you know, and it is to sit there. Sometimes it's a sweat, a drum circle, or you talk about ketamine. You know, we have our good friend Eugene and Shannon who own Floresta, and we'll host them and do some of these alternative, you know, medicines like that to allow people to heal. And it's just like, it doesn't matter what skin you are, denomination, who you love, any of this, none of that stuff matters in these walls that you know exist. And that to me is extremely, to us, is extremely important, that no one feels shunned right now, and giving people a platform to be and to exist, and to come together and to share beautiful knowledge, you know, because there really is, you know, there's this practice over here that believes this thought, and it's just like, wow, there's a lot of truth and beauty into that. And then there's this belief and this thought, and, you know, whether it's religion or if it's like the Tao Te Ching or just a philosophy, you know, these are all open, and it creates warmth and beauty more than isolation or separation or anything like that. And it gives people, again, that space to communicate where maybe they felt that they couldn't.
Aaron said the key thing, judgment. So love can't exist in the same space as judgment. It's impossible. Okay. And we're a judging society. We're a fear-based society, judgmental society. We get judged as children. If you're Catholic, original sin, you know what I mean? You're born less than, and you have to repent to lack limitation. We're with judgment, love can't exist. And yet people who judge people consistently will go around saying how much they love this and they love that. You can't do it. If you're judging people, you cannot have true unconditional love. It's unconditional. That's the only real love. You know, right, there's iterations of love that we believe it is, but
yeah,
we're all just apple trees, you know, and somebody comes up to grab our apple and we're like, no, you can't have my apple.
Yeah.
You know? Or you guys did something last year that upset me, so I'm not going to sprout as many apples and be as fruitful this year.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we're a very conditional.
You kill your own crop. You know what I mean? You let those apples rot and you ruin your soil. And well, I mean, I don't know if you ruin your soil, but you do. So it's detrimental to yourself. It's you're poisoning yourself by it's a reciprocal universe. Like you said, we were looking for you guys too, because it's reciprocal. You give, you receive, you give, you receive. It's how it should be.
Yeah.
And it's how it is in some circles.
And you know, drum circles, it's funny, like it's something that we don't even mean to, but all of our events seem to at some point in time end up in like everybody kind of rattling and drumming and singing, and it's somewhat primal sometimes, or primitive, but it's so fun. It's not like kumbaya, you know, it's definitely not on the scale of the fluffy, like up here, like, okay, everybody, you know, it's got some like energy to it, but it's been scientifically proven that a participation and joining in the energy of a drum circle, because it's community, because you have a rattle or a drum or a shaker or something in your hand, or just moving your body to that flow, excuse me, because we're all creating that space together, we're creating that heartbeat together, it actually has a better effect for our brain than any antidepressant pill on the market.
Oh, absolutely.
And it sounds silly, but it's like, well, let's get silly then.
Well, but there's science to that too. So just from, again, a quantum physics perspective, we're all frequency, we're all energy. So what do you do when you rattle, when you drum? You change your frequency. Right. And the strongest magnetic field on the planet, next to the planet, is the one that emits from our hearts. So it goes roughly 50 feet out from the body. So the heart's magnetic field. So when you're in that space, you're sharing that space. And when you're all in there beating drums with good intention, it's not silly. You're changing it, the butterfly effect. You're putting good into the universe, but amongst those people, this is masterminding, right? This is what masterminding is. So there's an agreement made amongst all these people who have set out to be better, whatever that means. It doesn't matter where they are in terms of their growth, but they know that they don't know everything and they would like to know more. So they're all here. And when those people start beating those drums and moving around and dancing and letting out primal screams, it's not negative. You know what I mean? And it's not silly. Even though it feels silly to me, that's still a hang up I have. It's hard for me to get into that flow. I got to work, because I still have, as much as I'm conscious of my subconscious programming, the faulty subconscious programming, it still gets me. I still have to work through it.
Well, we live in a society, where right now it's like, it's looking cool is it's like
do your best.
Doing those, it's like where I'm not paying attention, or it's just like, no, I want to, give me a big open, mouth grin. That's what I want to see. I'm being real here.
Authenticity.
So sometimes it's not about being pretty or looking cool when you're sitting there,
woke.
shaking away or doing any of these things, but it's how you feel. And like you said, that supercharged like laser beam or something like supercharged Care Bear stare we're creating in this environment. So yeah, it feels good.
Like emitting those Care Bear beams.
I thought of something while you guys were talking, which is that the things we've been sort of saying, you don't have to do it this way just because lines have been drawn in the sand at some point by someone else. And then there's alternatives. And then we're bringing in the whole community thing. The difference between having rules and control in place, which is the opposite of love. We've talked about control. You cannot try to control something and love at the same time. On the opposite side, in a good community, you might observe ritual or traditions, but not rules per se. Everyone's bringing something and agrees to a few things, but it's not necessarily this stringent, everyone must do this exact thing because we're all robots.
Go to college, get your degree, get some debt, you know what I mean? Get a job. Like everything's prescribed. And people, they a lot of people don't make those markers, right? Because we're all different. We have different interests. We do different things. And when they don't make them in a society like this, where toxic shame is prevalent, right? There's shame, which is okay. You can feel shameful about something you did and know that you have to fix that going forward. But then there's the person who says, I'm a piece of shit. I was that person. I'm a piece of, that was instilled in me. You're a piece of shit. So even though I did all these things to make myself look cool, I went out, did the acting thing, I was successful. And I walked away from a massive project because I knew I was going to kill myself. I don't really talk about it much. She was the first person I told actually when she moved here. But it was a star maker. Like this was the thing with my idols, and I had an investor in it, and I bailed on the meeting because I knew I was going to kill myself. Like I knew with that kind of success at that particular time, and Vinnie had just been born. I think it was I was about 4 at this time. Sophie had just been born. I walked away. I bailed on the meeting, and the thing went on to win a bunch of Oscars, and it's a great movie.
No one would believe it.
But what I realized is looking cool. Like I always say, cool Vince was that was the best character I ever created in my life, because I wasn't him. I knew that I didn't like the shit that I was saying, the shit that I would laugh at, the parties the parties were pretty cool. But then, it became my identity, and I couldn't break free from it. Like it bogged me down in the same way I was an overachiever in that space. So somebody who doesn't make it to college on time per their family's prescription, they crumble inside. And if they don't know where to go to get out of that crumbling, well, next thing you know, they're on psychotropics, right? Of course you're depressed because you think you're a piece of shit, because that's been instilled in you. And parents, to their credit, back then they didn't have the information to know that, well, if you tell a kid that they have to be this and they have to do that, you're setting them up for failure. That's what you're doing. I mean, because they might not want to do what, and it's probable that they don't want to do what you want them to do. They want to live. They don't want to be judged, right?
Well, they need to be heard.
They want to be heard.
Seen. They need to be felt. That's what anyone needs. Every human being needs that, and that's what community brings. Ceremony brings. That's what ritual brings.
I think that's a lot of what we've been missing is we've been so taken away, so far away from even our own families. I mean, dad's at work, maybe mom and dad don't even live together in over 50% of the households across the world now. And yeah, I mean, to make a living, you're probably working full-time plus, if
Yeah.
not full-time and a half, if not 2 jobs. And where are the kids left at? Well, they're growing up with their friends, running around doing, I mean,
Now they're on
God knows
screens.
what I was
They're like
doing.
this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
With the infinite amount of knowledge at their fingertips, both good and bad.
But they're not necessarily learning how to do anything with that knowledge.
That
It's
is very true.
there.
Yes, and it's set up to deliver a dopamine hit every 2 minutes. Social media, dopamine hit
Ding.
every 2 minutes. So Sophie's addicted. She's addicted. I've seen people that were addicted to crack, all kinds of drugs. When I was in the center for PTSD, I saw what that looks like when an addict can't get their fix. I've experienced it to a slight degree on a bender. You know what I mean? Like I know what it feels like on a bender. But I've never been chemically drawn like that. But I've seen it in her eyes now. When we take that tablet away, she doesn't know how depressed she gets instantaneously.
Mhm.
And we that documentary,
What's the
Social Dilemma. They're one of the most important documentaries you can.
That's the
on
Netflix one.
Yeah, Social Dilemma. And it tells about the suicide rate that's gone up in kids. I mean, you have this thing that 24/7, it's telling you you're not good enough, right? Then it's delivering you this artificial dopamine to make you feel good enough, and you can't run away from it. It's vicious. It's really vicious. And that isn't that ironic? Because we can connect in a way that we never could in human history. But then we get addicted to the shit that's being shoveled down our throats from big corporations.
That brings up another like interesting point, like this is a tool that can be used to benefit us.
Right.
This can be a tool that's used to separate us and to make us much worse. And it's not, it shouldn't be regulated. It's up to each in their own to do so. And as well, we see with other, what is being regulated. And we're talking about, alcohol earlier being, promoted, drug or medicine or something like that, however you want to look at it. And it's taxable, it's available. And other things that aren't taxable is what we're saying. No, this is not available to you. And this is more going to be something that might open your mind, but we have all of these things that are pharmaceutical, made in a laboratory. I'll openly share, like high school weed for me versus weed now that's grown in a laboratory. It's so different.
Yeah.
It is absolutely so different to where and a lot of people share this. It's like, it's almost unenjoyable. It's not the same. It's not the same energy. And we're doing the same with what we consider medications. We're steering away from plants, and we're saying what we have. A child can recognize Facebook symbol and Instagram symbol and WhatsApp and all of these, symbols on a phone or a tablet to open their favorite app or whatever. But knowing what plants in nature are going to help them, heal their belly for a stomach ache, or, potentially be a hazardous or risk. So it's like coming back again to those roots, that drum and rattle again, coming back to our roots in ways and sharing with our communities. And that's certainly one thing that we're doing and offer available is these kind of elongated diets where we do say, get off of social media, get away from watching television. And it's a strict diet, that we kind of oversee if people are interested in doing it. And it completely resets the brain of that dopamine, that addiction that's like.
Absolutely. Down to the sugars in your diet and the extra carbs and things like that turn into sugar. It's amazing how much of these things can affect your body on a day-to-day level. Even things like gluten now, I find. Didn't know gluten was ever an issue. But now when I'm off of it for so long and then I go to eat my bread, I'm like, whoa, it's like I all of a sudden feel like I've done yoga 30 days in a row just because I'm so limber and loose and all the inflammation, leaves your body. And it's amazing how throughout some of these things you can feel when your body is clean and you give it what it needs.
Mhm.
I could use more of that in my life. Like I'm bad with the sugar. Bad. And
it's legal cocaine, bro. Legal
Well,
code.
yeah. Well, I spiritually bypass
Got a
it.
cup
by
of it
saying,
right here.
well, I don't believe that I'm going to be affected that way. Well, I'm not completely, and maybe it's good genes, whatever. I look younger. I work out. I don't drink really, but still, because I have some hereditary things going for me. I trick myself into believing that I can eat a bag of Reese's Easter eggs in a night, and I'm gonna be quite all right. Like, that's not gonna inflame me. That's not detrimental. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here talking to my kids about dopamine hits on social media, and I think they should listen to that, right? You know, so it's at least I recognize it in myself. And when I talk to the kids, I tell them I'm talking to me too, because I got some shit that I need to, you know. But it's one step at a time. And in community, you can talk about these things, and you can go one step at a time when you're not being judged, and you can take whatever step it is that feels right to you at whatever given time. I'm not for that diet yet, but I am for that ceremony. So let me do that and see where that takes me. And it's all relative, right?
Yeah,
the
be
universe
gentle with
isn't in a
yourself,
hurry to change anybody.
What's that?
The universe isn't in a hurry to change anybody.
No,
No.
sometimes the
Right.
universe is in a big hurry to change things for you.
Not the universe. Not the.
And that's
Get out
why,
of
you
there.
know, it's personal philosophy, and you know,
Oh, man.
it's we're not trying to change the world here. We're not trying to change
But you
anybody.
are.
You know, well, we're just being, you know, the same as the rock or the tree. We're just being, and we're allowing people and we're allowing everything else to be too. We're not trying to change anything. You know, we accept that the universe is perfect at ever expanding. Yeah, we are perfect at ever expanding, and we're just a part sharing that perfect expansion and beauty. So there's no need to try to force an idea onto somebody else.
Yeah, and you guys are real good at that too, and not just letting people
Exist
commune with themselves on whether or not what you do is right for them at whatever.
to show up as their own authentic self, just to be who they are and appreciate them for that. Like, and so many people have not had that.
Or even if you don't know who you are, show up like that, and let's see what happens. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
it's funny. At one of the ceremonies, I ran into one of your guys, and I didn't know. Was it Joe? It was Joe. So he's like, Vince. I was like, hey, what's up? He said, do you know who I am? I said, no. I said, did we go to school or something? He said, no, we got in that big fight on social media, and you finally snapped. There's only been 2 people that irritated me bad enough to where I went back to my roots and said, where do you live? I'm coming to see you right now. And that was him. But I didn't know. I didn't remember any of that. But he was one of the 2. And he's like, I was like, you got me, man. You got me. But in that space, we had just gone through the ceremony, and we were sitting up there communing, having food. None of that shit mattered. You know what I mean? Like, we were both so far beyond our egos at that point that we couldn't. It was funny. It was funny. It was anecdotal. And catch me on another day, it might not have been. Oh, you're that. You know what I mean? Like, it not so much now, but 5 years from now, there might have been. Anyway, things just dissolve, right? They just dissolve into what they're supposed to be for you at whatever given time it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
it's like what we put our care toward, what we're putting our attention toward. And it's like when we come together in these, you know, these ways, and we celebrate and do, you know, different activities and these communal things, you know, that's our focus. The care is more about that right now, or about our expression of finding that our oneness within, you know, the community, our oneness within the universe, our uniqueness that we're offering, our own light that we're shining to the world, and our own unique perspective and all this. So it's like the care to enjoy that frequency is more important than going back or talking about, you know, something else. Or it's like, again, when the drummer rattles in your hand, it's not like, so what's your, are you left or right? You know, are you red or blue, or purple or green? Or, you know, it's just like our focus, our attention, our care is to the rattle. Our care is to creating that, you know,
Be present.
that presence and frequency with the group. So those other things don't really get brought up even, they're not topics of conversation. And that's something that's just like, we can redefine, we're allowing people to redefine that, of what that means to be in a community, and to have beliefs, but not, feel that they just have to, so again, it doesn't have to be talked about. If you want to, you can, but it's just like, there's other things that are bringing my attention and awareness that I care about in this space that's important.
I feel like it actually encourages people to have more confidence, to trust themselves more, to decide what they do believe, simply by having the ability to show up as they are, listen to their heartbeat, so they can get a rhythm.
Vinnie and Sophie argued over the rattle. I just want to throw that in real quick. They argued over the rattles. Sorry.
That's all. No, I think ultimately, like this idea of society, a lot of society, the way we go to school, the way we take medicine, the way we eat is so prescriptive now. And I think what's wonderful about a diverse community of people who have open minds, there's no set way of showing up. There's no set person you have to be.
People flip out over that.
Yeah.
They can't take that when you're well, no, I'm not attached to the outcome, but what does that mean?
It means you don't care.
What does that do? You don't care, you're cold. No, I'm just not attached to whatever this is. This isn't good for me. So I'm just going to back out of this space. Well, what are you going to do? I don't know. I'm just backing out of this space for now, because it doesn't feel right.
But you can trust yourself, and that's why you can say that. It's not like I'm lost and I'm scared now. You don't have to have that either.
Well, and that's what I'm saying with people that haven't done the work. And even still, I second guess myself sometimes, more often than I'd like to admit. But the people that haven't done the work, well, they're very easily pushed down a path that isn't theirs. I was, when I was a kid, I was pushed down a path, an entire career path, life path that had nothing to do with me. I wanted to get into physics, or when I went to career day in my high school, I went to Hazel Park. We were poor. You know what I mean? We were on the other side of 8 Mile, and we were just poor white people. It was predominantly white, and we were just poor. And I was poor for being poor. Like, I was probably the poorest poor person, one of them in the, you know what I mean? It's like, so, but I wanted to be an astronaut. That's what I came to career day with. I want to be an astronaut. And the counselor, bless her heart, she said, well, how are you going to make money doing that? She was just trying to push me on a path that in her head was more realistic, right? She said, you could be an attorney, but you go to school for 8 years and you're gonna, she knew how poor we were. She said, but what you could do is you could go out to New York and you could sell stocks on the stock exchange and make a lot of money right now. So I went to school for finance and international business. It didn't last long. First macroeconomics class, I'm arguing with the professor. Who's predicting these numbers? This is bullshit. You know what I mean? And then I wound up in philosophy and sociology, and then eventually out to LA in the arts. But that how are you going to make money doing that stuck with me. So my drive when I was out in California was for money, to not be poor anymore. That's not a good reason to be an artist, right? So I was always conflicted until I started doing the work. And I didn't start doing the work until I was traumatized enough to actually think that maybe something I was doing was wrong, right? So it was always the world's fault. It was always somebody else. In a space where there's no judgment, you can talk about it. Yeah. You can talk about it. You can just let it fly. And you may not get the answer you want back. You may not get any answer, but you will be heard. And that is fucking huge. It's beautiful. And every great tradition has the golden rule, right? Do unto others. It's so simple. So simple.
It's a big step to muster up the strength to go, oh, you know what? 99% of this is my responsibility.
Yeah. And it's simple math. What's the common denominator? Wherever I go, there I am. Right?
Exactly. and to be able to have that safe and vulnerable space where people are owning up to their own junk and moving and pushing through it gives the strength and permission for other people to do so as well. Like, we're all human. We all screw up. I am no better or no worse than anyone that comes into this community or anybody else. I have my own faults. I have my own things that I need to work through, and we all work through them together.
That vulnerability gives people so much opportunity to empower themselves, to take responsibility, because they see others are like them. They're not an outcast, because we tend to do that. We tend to, exile ourselves socially when we think we're wrong. We're the bad guy in some way, right?
Yeah. Don't look at me. It's not. I'm not worthy, right? Like
it's not what I think about me. It's not what you think about me. It's what I think you think about me. That's the prison we live in. You know what I mean? That's the prison. Yeah, and I still live in it. No, not so much.
You know what Tom says all the time. I work at Impact Theory. I don't know if you guys know about Impact Theory. You do.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah, and we're huge on community at IT. We're just Impact Theory University, so we could have a whole other separate podcast just about community, or even just conversation in community development.
And what you're trying to grow?
Hold on, stop interrupting me.
I can't, because I'll forget it.
Well, what about me? I might forget mine.
Oh man.
The only thing that really matters is how. Only thing that really matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And if you can't find a way to shift that through actions that you take internally, but mirroring with community and hearing, being heard, that vulnerability, we share that a lot. We established our relationship on radical trust.
No holds barred, just
everything out on the table.
Everything.
And it's cultivated in me, which I did not have before, the ability to just say anything that comes to mind without editing it at all. No judgment. I can take it back the second I say it. I'm just experimenting. Everything I say is just an experiment. It's not a commitment to, I can change my mind anytime. And it's so liberating to be able to do that. And so we are our own little mini community here.
I'm smiling because I
like that a lot.
Told her before she got here, and she told me, here's what I care about. If I'm going to be in a relationship, because I had sworn them off. I'm going to have my kids, and I'll gigolo around the planet, and I'll die. I'll die happy being a father. You know what I mean? And I was good. I was really good. I had made my peace with that. But I did say, if somebody comes along, at least I know I'm ready, because the last two relationships were very healthy. And I was extremely codependent prior, and I was able to walk out at the right time. And so she comes along on Instagram. She's liking the human condition, and she works for Impact Theory. So I start paying attention. So before she came, I said, all I care about is growth. If we grow together or we grow apart, period. And that's all I care about. I care about truth. I care about growth. If somebody is committed to those two things, we'll get along. That doesn't mean you have to tell the truth all the time, because you still have shit you're getting, you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean you have to grow all the time, because sometimes people need a break. But when people are committed to it, when people are committed to it. And she said the same thing, and it's just no holds barred. She came out here, she'd never done you never did a psychedelic in her life. So where we showed up first, right? We showed up there first. She met you guys. Then we showed up Bufo next. What else? I mean, just everything under the sun that was growth related, that was scary as shit.
We went to the Floresta retreat.
Oh, Floresta, yeah. She had never done ketamine. And
all kinds of other growth is happening as well.
Like ridiculous growth in every realm that you can think. But what's funny is when go ahead.
No, it's so healthy right now, we're transitioning, what is medicine? What is a drug? What is the stigma that goes around something that, it's like there's these things, these plants, these medicines that have been used for,
thousands.
Some of them, thousands of years, ayahuasca, the DMT, psilocybin or hape, different things like that, you've been used for so long. And it's like getting away, they're here to help humanity. And then we through law and through greed of taxes and what should be, I wanted to make money off of that. It's like, it's hard to make money off of it. And it's just like interesting, there's even these things popping up of like, different practices like psilocybin or the ketamine or MDMA. There's different things, and it's just like, well, even ayahuasca falls into a very interesting and different category of this, and it's like making this available to people, allowing people to find out about these things and not having a stigma of that this is bad for me, or I'm doing a drug, or this goes against God's will for me. If there's, been a religious, imprint that's been, somewhere in the past, or how my family, and then there's the additional like paradoxes we're dealing with right now of like intention to impact, what would your family say? What would your pastor say? What would your job say about something like this? And we're, extremely moldable until we create definition to ourselves. And that's something in these environments when we're doing this work, when we're showing up, we'll just come back to the rattle. It's just like, we can create the environment, we can rattle, but you have to rattle for you. You have to do that one to show up and do that aspect of it. And the community's here to support everybody in the growth. And like you said, we're all here for growth. So the community's here to help with that. But it comes back to, it's like, you'll be defined by everybody else until you start to define yourself, till you start to mold your own clay. And that's what we'd hope that this community and through these explorations of these things that are medicines that are here to help humanity, to help aid us, and not, again, like, let's look, it's like the opioid epidemic. I'm big into astrology. The opioid epidemic is a huge Neptune in Pisces thing. It's just like, we have a ton of people escaping reality. Same with some aspects of Aquarius right now, where it's just like, we're using technology to escape through the phone, escape through video games, escape through whatever, television, escape reality. And we're having these other, natural drugs, natural plants that are deemed illegal, that are actually helping bring people back to the present, bringing us back to these conversations, bringing us back to feeling, to making music when before we didn't, and it's just like, this is so powerful, and we should be proud of ourselves. As difficult as it is we're all creating this movement together. We're all pushing the envelope, and the laws and religious freedoms, or we're redefining what it means to be a community. We're redefining what it means to be a government of people. We're redefining what it means, to be a medicine and to define ourselves so much too, that it doesn't matter of other people's judgments of what they think. Like, I was at an ayahuasca ceremony this weekend, and it was awesome, and be like, that's weird. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're entitled to have that opinion, but my experience, was beautiful.
It is beautiful. And I get that at Quinn all the time. He's an overachiever. He's a young guy. He's my chief sales officer, and he kills it out there, but he can only overachieve within the confines of the box that he lives in. So whenever I talk about some of the things in my life that just come up, his first thing is to deny it. No, yeah, right. What? Okay. Because he lives in a box and doesn't realize he lives in a box. And this is what I was doing too. I was overachieving within the confines of the box that was created for me. And until people change two ways: choice, trauma. That's where big life changes come from. They come from those two things, and it's rarely choice. Usually something traumatic has to happen for somebody to make this life altering decision so that they can reevaluate themselves, right? It's hard to just wake up, and if things are going swimmingly in your life, even if you're binge watching Netflix, right, for escape, you're still escaping, but you're paying your bills, the house is nice, wife don't like you anyway, kids are on tablets, you're probably you'll never get called to task on making yourself better because, well, you did good enough, right? So it's that's one of the scary things, is that does everybody, do we need another Holocaust? Is that what we need? Another Holocaust for people to wake up to the idea that, look, you're leaving human suffering left unattended. You can't do it. I took my kids to Auschwitz. It was just before the pandemic, 2017, I believe. I took them to Legoland in Denmark right after, right? So I wasn't trying to scare them, but I wanted them to see. I wanted them to walk on this road, and I wanted them to see what happens when human suffering goes unattended. Now, you can easily vilify Germany and German people from where we stand, right? But they weren't, that's not how it is. People, they don't intend to do bad things. Maybe Hitler did, right? But they're the people that fell into these molds of whether they were right or left. Well, they were just living their lives, right? And they were under duress, a lot of them, and they were working these 50, 60-hour weeks, and they don't have time to think outside of the box. And they're not on drugs, so they're not really you know what I mean? They're not doing anything that's on the exterior so detrimental that somebody else is going to say, you have to stop doing that, right? It's only when it infringes on society, as society is set up, that somebody will say something about it. So it's getting those people in without, and I don't know if it can be without the mega trauma that
I think so. I think
I hope so, because I told Sophie,
yeah, you can decide, you can make a choice to grow your mindset.
Oh, you can.
You can make a choice to change your habits, to adjust things that will compound over time. Very little things sometimes.
You can.
We do that. I tell you all the time.
No, you can. It's just most people don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Most people do not seek discomfort.
Right, because that's what it is, right?
Otherwise.
The path of least resistance doesn't change until it becomes easier to do the thing that you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
It's that we're running towards them all the time. Things that are that conversation's gonna suck. All right, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, let's just jump right into it, because we got limited time here on this at least on this planet. You know, we're infinite, but we got this one life that we may never remember in the next one, if there's a next one, or whatever the case is.
We got big plans. We don't have time to waste.
Yeah, you
I'm huffing and puffing.
and that's
Yeah.
it depends on what you're huffing and puffing on. Yeah, so anyway, it's that's what this is for. Like you said, we're all putting our foot forward and trying to, maybe a couple people listen on this, and we'll have 5,000 by the end of the week, right? Maybe we get 10 right? But that's 10. And they did a study on what it takes to change the course of a population, and it's 1/10 of 1%. And they did this with they would have monks meditate in a war zone, and it would change the course of things temporarily. But it takes 1/10 of 1% of a population to change the course of things. So with the way the internet connects us, we could use that as a powerful tool. You don't need many people thinking like us. It's not just thinking like us. You need to act, right? We've taken the next steps. We act. Doesn't mean we're perfect, but we act with good intention, without malice, without judgment. We make it a point to make these things life priorities. And I wish I see, if you forced everybody to do a grandmother ceremony, it wouldn't work. They got to come at their own free will, right? Like that's the paradox, is that, well, I know it works. I can tell you it works, but I can't make you do it. And I really can't explain it to you in a way that you would understand. So there it is. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's a tough position to be in, but it's not. It's beautiful. But it is hard to watch, isn't it? Like when you have family members that can't get out of their own way, or friends that can't get out of their own way, and you're like, you're playing victim, man, just stop. In your head, you're like, just stop.
Well, do we go back to the judgment?
Right.
You know, what happened to the unconditional love there? It's like, hey, they're perfect how they are. You know, we can't change them. It's like, you have to love them for who they are, and whatever they bring to the table. And
Khalil Gibran on
that
children.
means you spend time with them, and sometimes that means you might not.
You ever read Khalil Gibran on children?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just steady. You got to steady the bow and be as steady as you can as the archer. But all these things that we have these attachments to in our lives, we got to let them fly. You know, we got to do. I tell my kids, your one responsibility in this life is to illuminate the space you occupy while you have the miracle of occupying it. That's it. Just do a little bit better than you didn't brush your teeth last night, brush them the next night. You know what I mean? You told a white lie, tell the truth the next day. Just do something that propels you forward, no matter how small. You'll get there.
It's certainly a thing with I think that a definite belief that we carry as well is like coming back to personal accountability, you know, and doing it ourselves. And when we, you know, when we have with the program, you know, watching the TV and the news, and then the pharmaceutical companies selling you this product, then it's a Swiffer ad, then it's a, you know, kids juice or something with sugar in it, Pop-Tarts, and then it's another pharmaceutical ad, you know, so we're being programmed and this and this. And a lot of what happens as well is we're taking away personal accountability and personal responsibility by, well, what happened to your life? Well, this happened, and then this and this. And then when we step into, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the drum circle, if it's a cacao ceremony, if it's some hape and sananga, if you're doing, you know, going to the floresta, or a deep is, you know, psilocybin, whatever, you know, exploration you're trying to do, you have to be willing to say, I am now taking the personal responsibility, accountability to not necessarily do this, because this isn't doctor prescribed over here. None of this is doctor prescribed. You know, the doctor is not gonna be like, well, you know, it seems that here you're maybe a little anxious, you're, you know, maybe a little depressed. I'm going to prescribe you a drum circle once every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. You know, it's like that doesn't happen. So you're prescribed a pill, you're prescribed this thing, and this thing is going to make you better. You know, so you can lay down, you know, we'll host sound baths, you know, and there's plenty of things where we love to just serve. And it's like, yeah, come and lay down and receive a sound bath. But there's also a lot of times where it's like, well, we want to empower you to do the work yourself, whatever that is. You know, it's like, we're not selling fish here. You know, we want to teach people to be their own fishermen. And it comes again back to that personal responsibility and accountability to say, okay, I am willing to step outside of maybe the norm and try this, and not because it's trendy or hip or because, you know, whatever. And there's all kinds of things and all kinds of, you know, podcasts and, you know, YouTube and stuff like that out there about all these different alternative medications, which are medications are really powerful, but it's got to be our own will and want, and not blaming, you know, that classic, like you point a finger at this, you got three pointing back at you. So it's like, I chose to go to the doctor, I chose to watch the program, I chose to whatever and take that pill, and I'm choosing to step outside of that conditioning, in which it certainly is conditioning, and now try something that might not be doctor prescribed, but that's been used for thousands of years, perhaps, you know, if not more. You know, it's like, comes back to self. Are we willing to show up?
The only reason that it's illegal, you know, and I know the conspiracy theorists out there are going to be mad at me, but it's not because it expands your mind. It's not that. It's because you can't patent plant medicine. You Correct. Can't patent. That's why ketamine is coming out now, and it's probably going to be on the forefront of being the conduit to change, because you can patent that. So Big Pharma can get their grubby hands on it, and they have. Thank God. And what it's doing, it's changing things.
A Canadian doctor back in like 2010, I believe, had found that using dandelion root and parts of the dandelion plant, flower, weed, whatever you want to call it. I love them. I think they're pretty, but I love my yards green and yellow. But anyway, that it cured multiple kinds of cancer, breast cancer and different forms of cancer. But it's such an old dandelion root. It's so old, like it can't be patented, so that there can't be money made off of it, you know. And that let's look at this as well. We have a brand new virus that humanity has never once contracted, because it didn't work in our genealogy or whatever. It didn't really fit our system. So now we do, and we have a whichever way we feel about it, we have an antidote, a vaccination for it very quickly. Again, whichever way you feel about it, it doesn't matter. But we have something like cancer that's been around for a long time. We have AIDS, which has been around for a long time. We have no antidote, for these things. But why we have something for this is like raising an eyebrow. There's a lot of alternatives, or there's a lot of even questions to be asked, like what's going there. We found just in the past couple of days, we have microplastics in blood we have found.
Yeah.
So it's just like this should be illegal. We know that plastics are really harming us. We know that there's a lot of things that are being sold in our environment that are very, very bad for our health, very bad for our environment, that are legal because it's profitable, it's taxable. And now it's saying, no, this is illegal because, it expands your mind, or it can't be regulated or whatever. It's just like, well, we know that there are some, repercussions of that, and there'll be some people that have a bad mushroom trip. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. Like there's going to be some people that have a bad trip at a bad experience at a concert. There's going to be that's anything.
Better than a bad 10 years
mall,
on an antidepressant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's better than what they were going to do to my son. Okay. I'll take the bad trip. You know what I mean? Give me that bad trip, because the bad trip's a good trip.
Yeah,
just
people have life-changing experiences when they almost flip their car, or when it's that car crash that you walk away from and you're like, but you get in
not that we condone psychedelics while driving a car.
What's that?
So not that we condone psychedelics while driving the car.
No, not saying not anything while driving the car. Just saying, like, if you're texting and driving and you get into like the little fender bender and you get a little scratch in your car, you might be like, oh, I shouldn't text and drive anymore. That might bring some awareness to it. But you get in that like fender bender or that serious like wreck, and you're like, oh my God, that same like Fight Club thing, like his eggs are going to taste better in the morning, like he's going to go home and hug his wife and appreciate the breath of life and air and that touch and sensation. It's just like, and sometimes doing these simple drum circles or breath workshops, oh my God, the breath work is, it's so intense, and it's just like makes us feel so full of life. And that's free medicine. Breath work. Love breath work.
Conversation is making me think of something. I don't think I've ever mentioned him to you. A fellow named Robbie Richmond. He works in company culture and stuff, but he was going to Burning Man, and at Burning Man, he kind of did this experiment, and it actually turned into something that has continued on over years called the X pill. And the X pill is just a capsule with rice powder in it. So nothing, just rice powder. And he does a ritual. He didn't call it a ritual, but an activation. It's an activation. And whatever you say, whatever your intention is, people, because they swallow the pill as part of the activation, which they can't reverse that. So like, oh, I changed my mind. We do that all the time. There's something where people who've done the activation with him, every single time, the goal that they had, or the thing they wanted to do or create or achieve, that had been maybe lagging, or they hadn't found the internal resources, whatever the thing was, done within a very short amount of time, like usually shorter than anyone would have thought possible, because they found the level of focus and intention for that thing just by the mere act of being seen, having the irreversible act,
being intentional, and being held to it, not having someone, after having this really cool conversation with an awesome person, saying, oh, get back to work. Oh, go to the gym. Oh, fill up your car with gas, or whatever the thing is. No, you can focus on what you want to do. That's all you have to do. And on that note, I got the message from Aaron saying he's got to bounce. So that's a great note to end it on. But I mean, we got to come back. We talked about it the last time, coming back frequently, and little pandemic action, and you know what I mean, and next thing you know, we're not. But to continue this conversation, just for the sake of continuing it, I'd love to, if you guys are up for it, and we can talk more about, we can unpack all kinds of things, and there are people that listen and benefit from this. So I want to thank you guys for coming on, you got a couple minutes to lay out whatever you want to lay out, anything you want to say, push.
Yeah, so for anybody that's interested in the community and some of the work that we do, feel free to visit soultribe.me. I am in the middle of working on the calendar for about the next 2.5 months. So I'm probably going to drop about 15 events out here pretty quickly as soon as Aaron and I get the final read over and make sure it works with both of our schedules. And that's going to be up. And then anybody that wants to contact us, you do it through the website. There's a way you can just message us as it comes straight to us, or shoot us an email at dc@soultribe.me. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. And if you're interested in any of the events, just let us know. I mean, we're happy to host and have you guys join us. And
You guys looking for a teacher or a workshop leader?
There's expansion happening.
Yeah,
expansion happening all over. So hopefully, yes.
So we're gonna repost Soul Tribe, your website, and then we're gonna post the ketamine event that you guys have going on.
you're
With
more than welcome to
Floresta?
do that. Yeah, the Floresta retreats will be joining us here on the 8th, Friday night. I think we got about 8 spots left. So if anybody's interested in that, hopefully they can get in touch with us relatively soon, because there's an interview process that does go along with that. We want to make sure everybody gets what they need in time for the space to be ready. So, but yes, please
They
reach
do
out to
interviews.
us. Let us know.
They do. And you may not be able to participate if you haven't handled yourself properly.
Strike while the iron's hot. It's Aries season.
Yeah.
Some else I want to add, if you're in the local Metro Detroit area or whatever, you want to come out, that's wonderful. And if you're not, and you're seeing this, and there's in this community, you're like, oh, I wish I had something like that in my area, wherever you're at, make it. Just make it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start inviting people over.
Mhm.
Start cooking. Start the community, whatever that looks like or needs to be for your area and your environment.
Community is so insanely powerful.
I mean, that's how ours started. Aaron's place was Monday night at Aaron's place, and
Just cook food.
It's grown over the last couple of years, and now it's something truly amazing.
And it may sound cliche, but I live by it. Be the change, right? What you just said. Be the change. That there's nothing more powerful than you taking dominion over your own life while you have it, and saying, I want this to happen, so I'm just going to do it, even if it's just you two in a room, right? Even if it's just me and her. If you build it, they will come. It may not be tomorrow, but they will come. So it was I could talk to you guys for hours and hours, but maybe we'll show up Friday. We might show up Friday.
Be great to have you guys.
But we appreciate everything you guys are doing, and just keep it punched. Keep it punched in the positive direction.
It's great to see you guys.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, appreciate
Thank you, Amber.
You guys have a good day.
You.
All right.
Thank you.
Likewise. Cheers.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Oh, you will. You'll see us. Even if spiritually we'll be floating around. All right, everyone's human condition. I'll be posting soultribe.me. It's already up there, but I'm going to post it separate, and then I'm going to post what's the other thing? Oh, the Floresta event this Friday, ketamine. If you haven't done it and you have some things you need to work through, you can't seem to meditate, you can't seem to slow the thoughts down at night. It works different for different people, but I live by it. It changed my life, and I think everybody who has things that they haven't been able to solve in their lives, give it a shot. You're not going to die from it. Worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't have the effect you liked, and nothing permanent, which is it didn't work for you. So we find these things out, but explore.
Whether that's just information or experience.
Lord knows we do. All right, human condition, and we will be back on Wednesday with Jude Angelini, Rude Jude, discussing his third and final book, Finn. if you don't have the book yet, get the damn book. Just get the book. Get the book and try not to judge it. But go ahead and judge it if you want to. Just, as long as you're getting the book and discussing this content, I think it's positive. We have Jamie Mundy coming up. He does the podcast Liberty Monks, and me and him agree on freedom. Our politics are a little bit different. People would view me as slightly Democrat leaning. I'm not. I can't stand establishment politics, but left, and they would look at him and say he's right. He's actually our financial manager. He's got some very, very very strong insights and information to back it. So it's one that you're not going to want to miss. And I would check out his podcast too, if you can, Liberty Monks. It's if you're somebody who agrees with a lot of what I say, do it if for nothing else to challenge yourself and challenge your beliefs and to think about something in a different way. But he'll be coming on in the next couple of weeks. We haven't said it yet, but did you have anything you want to say? This is the new co-host, by the way.
Maybe not every episode. Maybe I'll do one by myself. Who knows?
What the hell you say? She makes it look better anyway. And the technical stuff is probably going to be a thing of the past with Miss Salzba.
Well, we have extra hands and time to invest in.
Oh, your extra hand, yes.
My extra hands. All right.
We do.
Thank you.
All right.